Hi everybody. This video is all about this guy right here. This is the Mega Live by Humminbird, and what I'm going to do on this video is do a complete install. Well, I'll do the unboxing, I'll do the install, I'll talk about the problems I've run into, I'll talk about hooking it up to the sensor or to the head unit, and then I'll get it on the water at the end of the video and give you some footage of all three views: the down view, the landscape view, and the forward view. So all that's coming up. This is going to be a lengthy video, so down below I'm going to have timestamps, so if you want to go to a specific part in the video, you can do that. In addition to that, I'm going to show, or at least explain, how to daisy two Ethernet switches together, because I'm out of ports. I have 5 units now, so that'll be in the video as well. And then also any equipment you need, like the Ethernet and the Ethernet switch and the Ethernet dongle and things like that, I'll link that below, so it'll have the exact code or exact number that you need to order. In fact, you can even click on Amazon and order it right there. So all that'll be in the description. So all that's coming up. Hope you enjoy the video. Hi everybody. I just bought a brand new Humminbird Mega Live Imaging unit, and so I'm going to go through unboxing this, but before I do, I just want to say a disclaimer. I owned a Garmin LiveScope, and I think Garmin makes really good products, but the reason why I got rid of it is before I put this Ultrex on this boat, I had an Altera, which was a self-deploy and self-stow trolling motor. So I had to get a third-party mount that mounted on the shaft of that, and that added weight really made it a little bit of a struggle on the motor for that Altera. And to be honest, also, I was kind of an early purchaser of one of these LiveScopes, and I don't know if they had all the bugs worked out, but I had a lot of problems with interference. And you know, maybe I could have troubleshot it a little bit better, but I found myself not using it a lot. I owned it for a full year. Early on, I liked it a lot. It was showing me really good images, and then I got that wagon wheel. I had a lot of interference, plus the added weight to my Altera caused me to sell it. So I've been a Humminbird person for 30 years of my life. I find them user-friendly. It's what I know, so it's what I like. So I was really excited when Humminbird came out with this new product here. So I'm going to go through this. I'm going to talk about what's in the box, and I will mount this for you and show you how that goes. So before I even open it, it tells you that what's included is the Mega Live transducer. There's a 20-foot Ethernet cable, which I don't need that many feet because my Ethernet's very close. It's within 2 feet of where it's going to go. Well, it's going to have to run up the shaft, so maybe within 10 feet. It's got a 10-foot power cable, and then it's got the trolling motor, mounting bracket, and hardware comes with it. So let's get into this. I'm going to open this thing up, and basically I've got some mounting hardware here with an Allen wrench. So it looks like I probably won't even need any of my own tools. It's got some zip ties, which is kind of nice, even though I have a lot of them. And then it's got some, looks like little pads. I'm guessing that's for the mounting bracket, but we'll find out once I start mounting this. And then it's got your warranty information and some instructions right there. Okay. Next, this looks like it's the mounting bracket, and I'll take the plastic off and show you guys. So it comes in 3 parts. This obviously goes on the shaft. This is going to go on the other part of the shaft. It's got a kind of a grooved ratcheting type area, and so does this. But I'm going to have to look at the instructions to see which way this goes. But again, I'll go through that as I start to mount it. Actually, it's pretty obvious. Just looking at this, there's only one way it'll go, so it's pretty idiot-proof, it looks like. I'll get into that once we start to mount it. All right, next we've got, this is the Ethernet cable. You can tell by the ends. So it's a female on either end. there's a choke. It said, I did look this up online before I opened this package. This is supposed to help out if you do have interference. You're supposed to put it between the charger and the battery that's going to be powering this unit. My power is up front that I'm going to hook to, so I'm going to probably put this between the power from the unit and that power, where I hook into the power. So that's that. And then, let's see, this looks, yeah, this is the power cable. So you got a female on this end, and then this is what you hook into your power. Okay, I'm going to pause the video right here, and what we need to do is strip back the black wire even further, a good several inches, because there's a shield wire that's hidden in there. And that shield wire and the black wire need to be put on the negative post on your power supply. And then last but not least is the actual unit. And so here's the cord edge. You can see that on the ends of the cord, this is going to have to go to a dongle, and I'll put a link in the description below of exactly the dongle to get, and that way you can just click on it and order it right there, or go to Humminbird and order it. But I'll give you the exact one. So that's going to go to the dongle. This cannot hook into the Ethernet switch without that dongle. You are going to need that. And then this is going to hook into the power right here. So this one unit, it's, I don't know, it's smaller, it's a little bigger than the palm of my hand, but not as big as my hand. It's pretty lightweight. There's no black box at all. And you can see with the grooves on this side, how it's going to hook into that mounting bracket. So I'll be back in a second, and we'll be going through the mounting bracket. Okay, so they suggest in the directions to pinch these two buttons right here to disengage this to a landscape mode for when you install. And part of that is so that I can get these things mounted together. So this is the part that's going to go onto the shaft of the trolling motor. And there's really only one way that this will connect. You just keep turning it until it fits in there. And at that point, it's locked together but very loose. So then you have a locking washer to put right into here, followed by the provided little screw that's got a hex head, and they give you this bit right here. Now, my first inclination was put this into a drill, but I thought, wait a minute, I better check the directions because I'm going to be screwing this into plastic. And it clearly states to only hand tighten it, so I would not put that onto a drill. But basically, I'm just going to, it's turning pretty easily with my hand. And let's see, it says, okay, once it's tight, go another quarter turn only. So I'm going to go a quarter turn and stop. And okay, so this is able to move. It clearly says in the directions, failure to tighten this properly could result in this falling off into the water, which obviously would not be a good thing to do. So it's always good to read the directions as you're doing this. But you need to do this first because this will be flush against the shaft of the trolling motor. So if I mounted this to the transducer head first, and then put this on, you wouldn't be able to tighten this together. So you got to do this first. Okay, so once you have this firmly secured and hand tightened plus about a quarter, you're about ready to mount it onto the shaft. Now I have an Ultrex. They do send you these little rubber pads that you peel off and you would put here and here, but that's more for a Fortrex. It's got a thinner diameter shaft. But for the Ultrex shaft, you don't need to use that. So I'm just going to kind of just put this up here and see how it's going to look. I'm not mounting anything yet. And you can see this is my trolling motor right here. I stow it on the port side of the boat, but I keep my prop facing this way. So when you mount this and you deploy the landscape mode, you're going to want it to open like that. Now this is not set for landscape mode, it would be turned a little bit more, but that's the direction that you're going to want that to open. You don't want it, in other words, hinged and opening this way. Okay, so if your trolling motor's on the other side, you just mount it the other way. So this is the lower bracket, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave about an inch between the head of the trolling motor and my sonar, and I want to make sure I've got several inches between the 360. Now, if you're a person that moves the shaft of your trolling motor a lot based on the depth of the water, you're going to have to be a little bit careful with that, because if I were to lower this down, obviously my 360 is going to lower down as well. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so this looks about right. Another thing before I start zip tying this, or maybe I'll probably temporarily just use some electrical tape. They've got these really handy little molded mounts right here for your zip ties. So your zip ties are meant to go right, hopefully you guys can see that, there you go. So your zip ties are to go around that and not around the shaft, because I know with other producers of these live units, the zip ties have crimped the cables and rendered it unuseful. So that's really a nice little thing that Humminbird did. They're all through here, there's a bunch of them. So I'll be back with you in a second as soon as I start getting this mounted and route the wires. Okay, so I decided to halfway deploy my trolling motor. I've got a 2x4 up in here to keep it propped up like this. And I've got this just snug right now. Again, I want to be about an inch, I think. I don't really want to be right where the head is. And the other thing that you really want to take note of, and I've got this in the down imaging view right now. And I want to make sure this is exactly parallel with the way my trolling motor is going to be facing. Because if it's not, if I've got it cockeyed like this, or cockeyed like this, then I'm going to really struggle with getting my casts to where I want them to be, because I want this directly with the head of the trolling motor, so I know exactly where this is pointing, so I can make accurate casts to where those fish are. Okay, so that slid down a little bit when I was doing that. I'm going to bring it down. I'd say an inch to a half an inch is probably all you need. Again, I've got this 360, so I'm going to bring it down just a snug, and that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to hand tighten this. This is plastic. These are Allen wrench hex heads, and I'm just going to kind of do each one a little bit so you don't get one side crimped tighter than the other, and I'll just keep doing this until I feel like it's snug, and I'll move it around with my hand pretty good. But that's all it takes. It's going to be pretty easy. All right, I've got that all snug down, and now what I have to do is start routing my wires. So I'm just going to use some electrical tape for now until I get this the way I want it. But the biggest thing to be careful about is down here, because you've got so many ways that you can adjust this. There's 3 different ways, and you need to be able to make sure that you've got enough slack right through here. So right now I'm on landscape mode, and you can see it's going to work. So I push these 2 buttons and fold it back in. Okay, and then I need to turn it to forward or down, yes, forward mode. And there's a little F right here. I know you guys can't see that, but there's an F that tells you that. I'll probably put some white marker on here so I can see that, because I believe I'll be in forward mode most of the time. And then if you want a vertical jig, you're going to go to down mode. So that's a couple more clicks right there, and that's in down mode. So I'll bring this camera around so you guys can see this. Actually, maybe I'll just zoom in, and you should be able to see the big bow in the line right over here. So there's quite a bow, but you're going to need that for all that play. All right, so I got the first piece of tape here. I moved the camera to the other side, and I'm just going to keep routing this harness, and I'm going to put the tape again exactly where the tie downs will go. And I'm just going to put a couple wraps on here to make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm going to continue doing this. Right here's where I run into trouble. So let me put this last piece of tape on, and then I'm going to have to figure out where this wire is going to go from here. Okay, now of course everybody's boat's rigged a little bit differently, but with my Ultrex, I have to make sure if I want this to run down these existing cables right here, which would be the logical way to go, I've got to be conscientious of this wire, cable I should say, having enough slack or play to be able to turn this. So I'm going to do a little bit of tape on here, and then I'll test it out and we'll see what happens. Okay, so you can see that I wired right to here, but you don't want to, first of all, I don't want my wires, my cables too close to the head of the trolling motor, because that's where you might get some interference right in there. So I jumped it over right to this spot right here and taped it up with some black electrical tape. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move my foot pedal around and see if there's enough slack. So I'm rotating left. I need to go about as far as it can. And see, that's a little tight, so I need to loosen that up, I think. Let's go all the way to the right. And it's just fine going to the right. It's going to the left that's the problem. So what I need to do is untape that and back it off by, I don't know, 2-3 inches it looks like. Let's see, we still have quite a ways to go, and that's getting pretty tight. Yeah, maybe only 1 inch. If I just untape that and go back 1 inch, I think I'll have it. So you want to do this while you're in your driveway or garage before you get on the water, to get these wires, cables mounted and taped in correctly so that you got enough slack in the right spots. Okay, so I'm up here in my boat now. I've got this routed. I put several wraps of tape on here. I might put a very light zip tie on there too. Again, you don't want to pinch these cables. The next part of this is pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. And that's one thing I love about Humminbird, is that they make the plugs unique to each situation. So this is the power cable. There's only, this came in the box, and this came in the box. This one will not fit it. Plus, you can see it's got the metal rings and whatnot. So there's only one way to match these up. It's very, very idiot proof. So I just snug this down. Now this is the power cable, so I'm going to have to route this behind the dash here that I've got pulled off. And I'll show you, I'm going to have to power that, and I've got a power bus up there, so I'll do that. It's very hard to get the camera into there, so I don't know how well you guys will be able to see that. And then next, this is the actual sonar, and both of these ends are the same, so they're both females, and I'm just going to fit this in. Again, there's only one way for it to go. You just kind of turn it so the notches line up. You snug it down. Now, some people like to put shrink wrap around this. Get this all the way tightened down. There we go. You would need very large shrink wrap for that, or you can just take your electrical tape and tape that up just to make sure that this doesn't jostle loose as you're driving down the road or on the water. So next I will start doing the wiring process. All right, so I've got the wires all routed through. These now are ready to be put into, this goes to the power. And then this is the one that needs an Ethernet cord. And I go on the message boards quite a bit on Facebook, and everybody keeps asking, you know, can this go directly to the Ethernet switch, or hub, some people call it, and it cannot. You need the All right, so I'm going to stop the video right here and jump right in. I misspoke. So I looked this up, and basically you can hook up that Ethernet hub or connector directly to a Helix, but you do need the dongle to do that. However, if you do that, that's the only unit you're going to see the Mega Live on. The better solution would be to hook it into the Ethernet switch, or Ethernet hub as a lot of people call it, and that way it can be viewed by any of the models that will work with Live, which would be any G3 or G4. The generation 2s aren't going to work. Even if it's a Mega with side imaging, it won't work. So it won't have the software update even available to that model. So the best solution would be to hook it up to the Ethernet switch, and that way you can have multiple units that can see that live imaging. And again, you know, a lot of us now have 2, maybe even 3 units up front on the bow. You may initially think of which one you're going to use it on, but as you start using it, you may decide to switch it to another. So having it on the Ethernet port is really the way to go. All right, so I've pulled my wire. It's all snugged up with electrical tape, and it's routed with my wires. I'll show you the whole thing when it's done and it's nice and cleaned up. But now these are all pulled through and ready to go into my dash up in here, and that's where I need to plug in. Now, in my situation, I've had to get another Ethernet hub, or Ethernet switch, as some people call it. So this is the unit. I'll link it down below so you can see where it is. It's $275-ish, and for mine, I'm going to have to mount this inside onto the fiberglass. So I'm going to use some StarBoard, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. But once I put this in here, you're not going to be able to see it. I can't get the camera in there. It's just too tight. So I'm going to show you how this works. Basically, this port right here is going to go to the, hopefully it comes into focus there for you, yeah. That's going to go to power. So depending on where your power source is, you may have to run a long cable or a short one. And then these are the ports. And so you basically have 5 ports that are available. So I currently have 2 Helixes up front. I've got a 360. And so that leaves me 1 port that's open. So I've got the two Helixes, I've got the 360, and then I'm wired in with my the Ethernet to my trolling motor. So that leaves me 1 port. So I had to buy another one of these because I'm buying a 3rd unit. I just bought a Helix 15 to go up front, either to put my live scope on or the 360, one or the other. And so what I'm going to have to do is run an Ethernet cord. That's this. They come in different lengths. Since both of my hubs are going to be right near each other, or switches, I got the shortest. That's a 5-foot cord. And again, I'll link this below. And that's just going to basically daisy chain these 2 together. It really doesn't matter which one I put this in. Obviously, you don't want to put it into the power. In fact, it won't fit into the power. And so then, once this is daisy chained to the other Ethernet hub, and I've got this powered up, I can then plug this into any one of these, and that's for the live scope, or the the Mega Live from Humminbird. And so that's going to be networked, so I'll be able to see the Mega Live on any of the 5 units, control heads that I have in this boat. Typically, I'm just going to be using it up front on the bow, but that's how you do it. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to get this set up to rig. Again, once I put it in there, I don't think the camera is going to be able to show anything. It's just very, very tight. There's not much room even for my hands to get in there. So I certainly know a camera won't get in there. But I'll show you what I'm going to do with the StarBoard. And then next, hopefully we're going to be all rigged up. Okay, so to mount my Humminbird Ethernet hub, or switch as it's actually called, I'm going to mount this on some StarBoard. And StarBoard comes in lots of different colors, comes in different thicknesses. You can use any woodworking tools on this. It cuts very easily. You can drill into it. You can shape it any way you want. But the good thing is it doesn't warp and it's waterproof. So it's a great thing to mount things in boats. You can use this for a lot of different things. And so again, I'll link the description down below if you want to find this, and then you can choose the color and the size that you want. So what I'm going to do is trace this onto this, and then we're going to cut it out. All right, so I just traced it. What I'm going to do is cut a little bit bigger than this, and then I'm going to use marine epoxy to epoxy this to the front inside of the bow. So right on the slant is where that's going to go, at the peak of the bow. So I'm going to cut this, and we should be ready to go after that. And so what I can do now is, you can see this is going to mount. It doesn't have to look really pretty because it's going to be hidden. It's just a surface that I can mount. You do want to pull this packaging off. It doesn't have anything sticky on it, but you want to pick that off. And that would be the nicer side if I wanted this to be shown, but it's not going to be shown. So I'm just going to screw this in with some little screws, and then I'll be epoxying it. Again, I can't really get the camera into that part of the boat, so I apologize for that, but I just showed you a second ago how these ports are going to work. So another thing, Humminbird had in a little package had these little foam masks. They call it a mask, M-A-S-K, and there's some directions here, and there's a picture. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but it shows you how to mount it. And it says they have two different lengths. They've got a 7/8 one, which is if you're going to use the 50 or 60 degrees, and then the shorter one, which is 1/2 inch, if you're going to use the 40 degrees. And I, at this point, don't know which one I'm going to use. It says if you plan to switch between angles frequently, Humminbird recommends using the short mask. So that's what I'm going to do. And basically, I'm just going to peel it off of here and just stick it right on here. I honestly don't know the purpose of this. If some of you guys want to comment to let me know, because it doesn't say why you need this. It says note, side of the transducer will face up, is dependent on whether the transducer is installed on the port or the starboard side. Okay, so this is the side that's going to face up. So I've got the shorter one here, and hopefully I can pull this off pretty easily. There we go. It's got sticky stuff on the back, and I just simply put it, hopefully you guys can see this. I'll bring the camera in nice and close so you guys can see it. Let's zoom in here, and right here's where that went. Right there. So again, I'm not really sure what that's for, but if Humminbird recommends it, I'm assuming it's important. All right, so I got to this menu by hitting View and holding it down. And you scroll down to System, so toggle down twice. And then cursor over to the right. And I want to do Accessory Test. And you can see right now the GPS is connected, iPilot's connected, NEMA, Chirp, speed, temperature. But for 360 and for live, it's unconnected. And the 360 is not, transducer is not connected to it. But I've read that it could take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes for the Mega Live to find this power head. So we'll come back in a second and see how long this takes. All right, so I figured out the problem here. Even though this is a brand new unit, it's a Helix 15 SI G4 networked. It does not have the latest software version. It has to have the 2.660, and that's why I couldn't find the transducer. So I'm going to have to put that into this unit. I've got a video on how to do that if you're interested in watching that. It does have the newest updated mapping, base map, but it's not going to find this accessory until I have the right software. So I'll be back after I do that. Okay, so I was able to do the updates, and you can see right here that live is connected. So all that took was the software update. Now I'm going to show you my entire hookup here. So to mount this and put it in, get it all wired up and everything, took me a few more days than maybe the normal person, because I put a entirely different head unit in. I put this 15, and so I had to move all of these graphs around. I also inserted, or you guys saw me talking about the Ethernet switch. So that took me a little extra time. But all in all, I would say if you didn't have to do those things, just mounting the unit, getting it wired and hooked up, I'd say you could probably do that in less than an hour for sure. Obviously you want to take your time and make sure you're doing everything right. So I'm going to show you my setup before. I have this current unit, 3-head unit, and then I'll show you what it looks like now. And next step is to get out on the water. Before we go out on the water, there's 2 things I want to talk about. One, I decided not to put the choke in. This is going to go between the charger and the battery that's going to be powering all these units. And the reason for that is possibly some feedback that you might get through the trolling motor. I'm going to see if it works without it first. Plus, I've bought some lithium batteries and a new charger, so I figure I'll just wait to do that. The other thing that is important is when you do a software update, don't forget, let me hit menu twice, and when you go to setup, you're going to have to restore defaults before you do the software update, but don't forget to turn your user mode from Angler, that's the Angler, that's the way it is default after you restore your defaults, and move it to custom, and you can see it opens up a whole lot more menus. So just don't forget to do that. So you can see I'm connected. Right now I haven't set any of my favorites yet, but it was on there. So next, let's get out to the water. Alright, so this is my first time on the water with the live, and you can see I'm picking up some fish here. Right here, I've got it on color palette 8, and this is on forward view. I've got the depth set to 10 feet, I've got the grid on, and these fish are out about 10-20 feet. There's a few up at the top there that were a little over 20 feet away. Now it is a little windy, so we're drifting, but I'm scanning my, I'll come out so you can see the trolling motor head. I know there's a little bit of a glare from the sun, and so now I'm scanning. Oh, right there's a fish crib, and if we go to my 360 unit, let's let that refresh, and you're going to see this fish crib that I'm pointing at right now. You're going to see as soon as this refreshes, Oh, there it is. It's right there. So we drifted quite a bit. Actually, it's two cribs right next to each other. You can see that. And so if I come back to this, let's take a look at those. I gotta swing the boat around. Again, this is forward view. This is factory settings. I really haven't done anything. The only thing I did is I went to color palette 8. And there we go. That's the crib. You can see both of them right there. And there's some fish swimming. Right there, there's a fish swimming. I'm a little too close to it now, but yeah, so it's looking good. Right out of the box, really not tweaking anything yet. So here's the crib, and here it is on live. Fish moving, swimming up. I'm not using any lures right now. I'm just playing with my device. Not sure what these are. They look to be decent sized. I'm guessing crappies. We're starting to drift a little too close to the structure here. But yeah, there's two cribs. There's the distant crib and the near crib. Okay, so the way this works, this is what they call forward mode right here. And I can't show you from this angle, but there's markings on here and it shows you where the F is. And all I have to do is click this 4 times, and now we're on down mode. So we were just watching that last scene on forward mode. We're going to try to find something on down mode. Okay, so this is down mode. You can see I'm in about 10 foot of water. And this is all fish here. Looks like a tight pack. There goes one swimming up that way. You can see a few of them swimming against the grain. Tons of fish. Not sure what they are. If we move over to my 360, you can see this cloud right here. Well, those are all those fish that we were just looking at. Again, in 10 foot of water. That's color palette 8. I'm going to show you what the other palettes look like. So that's 7, 6, 5. That's color palette 4. That's 3. There's 2. And there's 1. I'm a big fan of number 8 because that shows me the density. The red is going to show me where it's tightly packed together or where there's bigger fish. Again, here it is on the 360. There's a fish crib off here, and that's just a cloud of bait fish right there, or some kind of fish. Okay, now for landscape mode, you pinch these 2 buttons here and you flip this out, and then you have to rotate it to where it says L. So now I'm going to show you this on the graph. Okay, so we're at the same spot where I just showed you the down imaging. Again, here's the crib, here's some bait fish. Now this is landscape mode. These are waypoints from cribs that I marked years ago. And these are the fish moving around. I don't know if I fully understand how landscape mode works, but you can see, I can certainly see fish. And that's going to take some time on the water learning how to use this. I'm probably going to be using forward mode and most of the time, probably 90% of the time, but if I'm going to be vertically jigging, then I'll be using the down mode. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned a thing or two, got some tips. Be sure to rewatch different parts if you're rigging. I know I do whenever I'm rigging something I'm not familiar with. I go to YouTube to check things out, so that's why I make these videos for you guys, to make it easier and clearer. So hopefully you guys got some information, and see you next time.